What's up, guys? Welcome back. Mr. C's Corner. It is Tuesday, May 5th, Transformation Tuesday. We're going to be continuing diving into our business lesson while listening to a transformative artist. Today, we are listening to Snoop D-O-G-G, or Snoop Lion. Remember when he did that? Yeah. But anyway, so today we're going to be talking about the role of government in our economy. The main idea for this lesson and for the lesson on Thursday is that government is responsible for fostering economic success and protecting people by regulating businesses. Today we're going to discuss some of the created rules and regulations the government has put in place within our country to protect competition. I thought that this was really important for us to think about when we're slowly opening up our U.S. economy and how the government is going to, how the government regulates and how they could regulate in the future. So EQ for today's lesson that we're going to be able to answer at the end of this video is, how does the government regulate business to protect competition? So how does the government regulate business to protect competition? All right. So last week we discussed trading that occurs between countries. Today we're going to discuss the trading that occurs within the U.S. through interstate and intrastate commerce. So I'm going to give you a quick government lesson because there are three main levels of government. First main level is the federal government. It's responsible for the entire country, right? Second one is state government, which is responsible for all states or commonwealths. Shout out Pennsylvania. And the third one is local governments. That's counties, townships, cities, and towns. They regulate and impose a certain kind of, restrictions and regulations there. So those are our three levels of government: federal, state, and local. So the federal government, though, oversees interstate commerce. I'm going to give you a textbook definition of interstate commerce. Interstate commerce: business that takes place between states. I'm going to refer to my experience of owning a business, giving you an example. So an example of interstate commerce is I used to own a farm, and I used to sell chicken here in Pennsylvania. So I was not allowed to sell chicken in another state like Maryland, because of the certain kind of rules and regulations in regards to food the federal government has imposed. So I can't go and process a chicken here in Pennsylvania and bring it down to Maryland without it going through certain kind of regulations. But I can do that in Pennsylvania. Through intrastate commerce. Intrastate commerce, business that takes place within the state. So as long as I follow all the rules and regulations that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has given for me to follow, I can then sell that chicken here in Pennsylvania, but only in Pennsylvania. In order for me to sell in another state, in order for me to do interstate commerce, I have to abide by federal rules and regulations. Does that make sense? So interstate, you got to follow what the Fed says. Intrastate, you got to follow what the state or commonwealth is saying. Make sense? So first question, maybe a little bit of research involved in this. We discussed what the federal and state government vaguely oversee, right? Intra. What do local governments oversee? Remember to put your response on Schoology. All right. Regardless of the level of government, the government is responsible for fostering economic success and protecting people by regulating businesses, right? It's important for government to regulate business or else businesses can do basically whatever they want, like form a monopoly or oligopoly. I think I'm saying that right. Oligopoly. Sorry. Anyway, but Mr. C, isn't Monopoly just a board game that I've started like 5 times throughout this whole quarantine, but haven't finished once? Yes. Fun fact, though, about the board game before I go on. Lizzie McGee, a Quaker woman, created the board game Monopoly in 1903. The reasoning behind why she created it in 1903, it was developed as a way to teach people about the monopoly of land ownership, right? Pretty funny. I found that during my research for this lesson, so I figured I'd give you that little nugget. But anyway, monopoly. What a monopoly really is when a company controls an industry or is the only one to offer a product or service, right? An example, Bell, or Ma Bell, Mother Bell. It was the original telephone company. They were the only show and only game in town. So and they were actually in everyone's house, right? Everyone who had a phone, it was through Ma Bell. The government saw that they were breaking these antitrust laws, and I think the Sherman Act made them basically disband and split up into these different sub companies. So what's resulting from Ma Bell is AT&T. So originally Ma Bell was in every single house, or AT&T was in every single house. So that's my example. Hopefully you learned something right there. So anyway, keep going on. So that's what a monopoly is. But what about an oligopoly, or however the heck you say that? Well, an oligopoly is when a small number of companies control an industry. Example, we all have one of these, right? But who do we have our service through? The U.S. cell phone services. There are four main ones that I can really think of: Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, and T-Mobile. Shout out Verizon. Yeah, those are the four main ones that I can think of. So your second question is, what is another example of an oligopoly here in the U.S.? Think about it. So I just gave you the cell phone example. Think about another example of an oligopoly. A little bit of research involved with that. But anyway, but companies can form a monopoly by establishing a trust. Mr. C, what's a trust? I hear a trust fund. I hear of, I put my trust into somebody. Well, this term of trust is a group of companies that band together to form a company and cut out competition, right? So all these companies are coming together to get rid of our competition, and in order to really get all that market share. So the U.S. government saw this and formed the Federal Trade Commission, or the FTC, to enforce antitrust laws and regulate interstate trade. So these antitrust laws, and I'm going to give you, this is your last term, so if you are writing all these down, good job. These antitrust laws are laws that allow the federal government to break up monopolies, right? So monopolies are bad, all in all. These giant companies that control and dictate pricing, and we really don't have any say as consumers of the pricing, because we depend on these products this company or services this company is producing. But they're the only show in town, so I have to pay these prices, right? Is that fair? You be the judge. So anyway, that's today's lesson. I'm going to end you on a good note from Snoop. I got to find one that does not have cursing. Here we go. Snoop line. That's Tuesday's lesson. Thursday, we will continue with this lesson by talking about how government continues to protect competition and our consumer rights. So make sure you check the comment for your bell ringer and put all your answers on Schoology. See you on Wednesday. See you tomorrow.